Today we'll be starting a new chapter. So this is chapter 7 and we're looking at integers for 7.1. Now you've been working with integers your whole life, but you just don't realise they're called integers, maybe. Integers are actually all positive or negative whole numbers. So another name for that is integers, not just numbers. A positive number is any that are to the right of the zero on a number line, while to the left we talk about negative numbers, and that's probably something you haven't really worked with a lot up until this stage, so we're going to start dealing with that now. So please write this down so that you understand the difference. Alright, when we're writing integers, we write positive integers like we've always written numbers, just with the number. There's no need to put a positive sign before it. We know that it's positive if there is no sign before it, then we just assume that it is positive. So for example, we would write the number 6 like that, or we'd write 127, we'd write 1490. These are all integers. Now please note also that an integer is not a fraction and it's not a decimal. So integers are only whole numbers, but they can be positive and negative. Alright, so we're writing a negative integer. We must put a negative sign before the number to indicate that it's negative. Otherwise, like I just said, we're going to assume it's a positive integer. So to give you an example, we can have negative 67, negative 1, and negative 150. So all of these are negative integers. Now, we use integers all the time. We probably don't even realise. Some of the examples of where we use integers in real life would be to indicate temperature. So luckily for us, we don't use the negative numbers much when we're talking about temperature. So we're mostly in the positives, unless you live down south a little bit. Alright, so we might have 24 degrees, so that's a positive number, so 24 degrees. And then otherwise you might have a negative 5 degrees, so that means it's 5 below zero. We also use integers to indicate height. So if you're in a plane, you might be flying at 4,000 feet, which is a positive integer, 4,000. But if you're going under sea level, somewhere under the sea level, you might be going below zero, so you're going negative. So for example, if you're in a submarine, you might be negative 50 feet, which means 50 feet below sea level. So there's heaps of other ways we're using integers, you know, when we're talking about money as well. So we could be in the negative balance in our bank account. Hopefully most of us are all in the positives. Alright, now when we're looking at integers, we just talk about finding the difference between them, but the best way to do this to start off with is to work with a number line. Okay, so that will give you a good visual of where the numbers are and which one and how far the difference is between them. So when we're looking at the difference between negative 4 and 2, you might say, well, that's 2. Well, it's not, because we've got negative 4 and we've got 2. So we need to start at negative 4 and we're jumping to count how many numbers we need to jump to get to 2. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the difference between negative 4 and 2 is actually 6. Alright, so we've got 4 to count to get back to 0, and then we add 2 more on because we're positive 2. So that's how we got to 6. Alright, now it's your turn. I want you to do these ones. We've already done the first one, so you know that the difference between negative 4 and 2 is 6. Alright, now we're going to use this number line to work out the difference between negative 10 and negative 3. So they're the same side of the number line. So maybe have a guess and see what you think it could be. So we'll start at negative 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So the answer there is 7. So it's a 7 number difference between negative 10 and 3. Right, but what about 9 and negative 9? What do you think? So let's have a go at that. So we've got 9 till we get to 0, then we've got to add another 9 on. So some of you have already got the answer by now. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, of course. So the difference between 9 and negative 9 is 18. Alright, that should be pretty self-explanatory. Let's try something different. Now, when we're talking about the integers, you might be a bit confused about which one could be larger. But what I want you to remember is the further you go to the right, the larger the numbers get. Okay, so this way, further to the right, they get bigger, so they're larger. And then the further we go to the left, they get smaller. Now that's pretty easy to understand with positive numbers. We know that the 150 is obviously bigger than 6. But when we get to the negative numbers, negative 150 is actually less than negative 6. So we need to understand that just because the number says it looks bigger, if it has a negative sign, the larger numbers are actually smaller as they go to the left. Alright, so let's see how we go with these ones. So obviously the difference between 9 and 5, we know that because we work with positive integers all the time. So we know that 9 is larger. So 9 would be the larger number there. Alright, but what if negative 2 or 2? So when we're looking at these numbers, so the ones to the right, the larger, the ones to the left are the smaller. So the larger number in this one would be 2. Now negative 7 or negative 6, they're right next to each other. But like I said before, the larger the numbers in the negative side, the smaller the number actually is. So the larger number here would be negative 6. Okay, so hopefully you've got that all under control. We're going to do some activities in class to see if you really understand, and then we'll do more complex things tomorrow.